Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me on my YouTube channel. On this session, we are talking about part number 5 of living in a creative structure. This one is titled The Body Doesn't Lie. And if you haven't already seen parts 1 through 4, I invite you to please go back and take a look and grab the information that is there. All of the presentations build upon themselves, and it might help you to better understand this particular presentation. Tonight, we're going to be talking about my most favorite subject of all time, which is kinesiology. And if you haven't ever heard of kinesiology, I highly recommend you go on Google, do a little bit of research, and really delve into the exciting information that you find, because this stuff is absolutely amazing. I use it in my own life. I use it in my business. I use it to discern the food that I eat. I use it for all kinds of things. So this is a very exciting presentation for me to deliver to you tonight. It is quite an honor, and I am so grateful that you are here to learn this material. And without further ado, I will share my screen. Okay, so living in a creative structure. This is the final part of the 5-part series. This one is titled The Body Doesn't Lie. So I have some questions for you, and I want you to really think about these. How do you discern truth from falsehood? How do you know if something is really good for you? How do you know if an experience is something that you really want to do? How about whether or not a relationship is good for you? How do you make a decision? And this is the million-dollar question, isn't it? Because I guess we all have our own ways on how we do things. But I'm just curious, if when you're making a decision, how do you really know when something is good for you, like when it's right? Do you go by your gut instinct? This one is so popular. This is the one that most people talk about when they say, oh yeah, I go by my gut. My gut tells me whether or not something is wrong. If I get a little red flag in my gut, then I say no. But if my gut feeling says it's good, then I go for it. But how many times is your gut feeling right? How many times is it wrong? And is it really 100% accurate or even 90% accurate? Think about those things for a moment. And if you don't go by your gut feeling, or if you do, and you can't make a decision, what's the next step? Do you gather evidence and then get courageous to accept it? Or maybe you gather the evidence and you decide to reject it. Do you go by your past experiences? Oh, I've done something like this in the past. I'm not going to repeat it, so I'm going to go ahead and turn it down. No, thank you. What about trial and error? Do you decide just to go for it and see what happened, and then you just make your decision based on that? Do you go by what your friends and family swear by? This is a good one. A lot of times we hear our loved ones, like the ones we really trust, maybe a parent, teachers, experts. We hear them say, yes, you've got to do this. This is the best thing ever. And how many times do we actually listen to them just to find out that it's not something that we really wanted to do, or we didn't quite get what we wanted out of the experience? Or maybe you just get by personal experience or personal preferences. Is that how you make a decision? And all of these are quite common. There's nothing wrong with them. I'm going to present a better way. Because all of those methods that I just told you, all of the ways that you can make a decision, if you fell into one of those, you have to understand that all of these methods come directly from the mind. Even the gut instinct is tied to the mind. It's tied to a lower emotion. This is why you would experience indecision. All of it propels the need to avoid pain. Because really, when you really think about it, when you're making a decision, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? More than likely, you want to make sure you make the right decision. So you start paying attention to what could go wrong and try to do whatever you can to avoid making the decision that will lead to that path, let's just say. But you know that this train of thought, this way to make decisions, you're avoiding pain which puts you in the problem structure, which we went over in presentations 1 through 4. And if you're in the problem structure, it means that the problem must always exist. So if you're avoiding pain, you're going to circle right back to more pain. It just creates more of it. And you're getting a lot more of what you don't want. It creates fear of making another decision. All those methods over there that I explained to you on this last slide. So all of these, if you use any one of these, all you are doing is creating more fear for you to make the next decision. And you might say, well, Nicole, I'm really good at it. I'm really comfortable with myself. I listen to my gut and I make good decisions. So then I have to challenge you with that. How many of the decisions that you make are really the ones that you really want? How many times have you made a decision and you wish it went better? Or how many times did you make a decision where it went well, but you could have gone better and you wonder, how can I make it better? How can I get to where it is I want to go? And I can tell you that all of these methods, if you are using these, it's not going to get you exactly where you want to go because it's all part of the problem structure. It's not part of a creative structure where you're just going for what you want. All of the focus there is on fear. It's on avoiding pain. It's on wondering that if you're going to make the right decision. And I've got news for you if you listen to your gut. There's nothing wrong with listening to your gut, but your gut instinct is not the same as intuition. You should not confuse the two. Your gut instinct is great to use when, let's say, you're in a place of danger. Now, I'm not saying to not listen to your gut if something's telling you to get out of the way or something telling you to get out of the dangerous situation that you're in. By all means, if you're in danger, run. You get out of that situation. What I'm talking about are just everyday decision making. Types of food that you can eat, the people that you hang around, whether or not to take a job, whether or not to take a client, whether or not to keep a client, whether or not to keep a friendship, or to make a friendship, or to date this person. All of these regular life decisions, if you go by your gut instinct, you are making a mistake. Because your instinct is based on the past. And if you're not happy with the past, and you're using that as a frame of reference, you're basically bringing your unhappiness forward. You're not creating a new future, you're just repeating the past. This is why if you are getting into relationships and you're getting into more than one and you're still single, and you wonder why these relationships are not working, and you're thinking, well, I'm going to keep on trying, I've got to find the one. You're suffering in the middle of it because you're looking from the past to try to change it. This was created by the ego as a way to avoid pain. Your gut instinct was created way back when the saber-toothed tiger, we had that real fear of the saber-toothed tiger trying to eat us, and we needed to learn how to survive. It became part of the reptilian brain. And the reptilian brain is where we get our fight or flight response. And our gut instinct is tied into that. So the gut instinct is not to be used all the time on every single decision that's made. It's actually a better way. Your gut instinct should be reserved for situations where it tells you whether or not you're in danger. And for everything else, use the intuition. And I'm going to explain how we can use the intuition, and it's fabulous. But before we do that, this is one of my most favorite quotes by Albert Einstein. Insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over and over and over and expecting different results. So if you're continuing to use your gut instinct to make decisions like whether or not you want to eat food or whether or not to date somebody, you keep making the same decisions over and over, just in different ways, expecting to get different results, and it's not going to happen. You are in a problem structure, and you will always oscillate from the problem to the solution, from the problem to the solution for the rest of eternity as you continue to find a way to do better things, but you keep looking at the past. You're following your gut instinct, let's just say. You're going off of the past. The future is something new. The future can be different. But in order to get the future to be different, you have to do different things. You have to make different decisions. So what do we do? How do we make different decisions if that's all we know? That's all we've learned, that's all we've ever done. So how do we make different decisions? What is it? I would like to talk for a moment about consciousness. And consciousness is simply awareness. It's what you are aware of at any given moment of time. But your consciousness is not exactly what you think it is. Sometimes you're not really focused on what you think you are focused on. And to explain this, I want to talk about three aspects of consciousness. So the way we like to describe it, there's three different aspects of consciousness. You have your superconscious that is based on experience. It just wants to experience things. It doesn't matter if it's good or bad, it does not judge. It does not distinguish between good and bad, it just is. And it's happy to be in the experience. It's happy to be sad, it's happy to be angry, it's happy to be in bliss. It is happy to have the human experience. Your ego is the conscious mind. It's the one that you wake up in the morning and you're thinking. It's the one that you're most likely most aware of. But that part is only 5% of your entire thinking mind. You're only aware of 5% of your thoughts. And you know that the brain processes over 40 billion pieces of information? 40 billion pieces of information on a day. And you're only aware of 5% of them. You're only processing 5% of that information. It gets filtered, and those are the ones that stay up in your mind for you to make decisions or whatever it is. It's in your mind. And what this part of your mind is concerned about, the ego, is concerned about the quality of life. It's the one that wants to get the nice sports car, or the big house, or the family, the lover, the relationship. Then you have your unconscious mind, which pretty much runs the show. And the unconscious mind is 95% of what else is going on. It's the feeling part of your brain. It's the part of your brain that tells you when something doesn't feel good. For example, if you're trying something new, its only job is to keep you safe. And if something is new, it means it's unsafe to the unconscious because you have never experienced it. So at that moment, when you're trying something new, you get all kinds of feelings. It'll throw up all sorts of feelings, such as shame, maybe anger, anxiety, whatever the case may be of the lower emotion that you might be feeling. It will try to distract you in any way, shape, or form to get you to stop doing or stop making the decision to do something new. So there's a battle between your ego and the unconscious all the time. But the unconscious is on feeling about something that you really need to understand. So again, you have your self-conscious, which is your ego, your thinking part of your brain, that just wants to have a really good life. Your superconscious, that's just about the experience, the human experience. This is your God within, the higher self. And then your unconscious, which is based in feeling. We only get to do those things that our unconscious believes is safe for us. And that's something to really remember. Because when you go out to do something new, your unconscious will hijack your gut. Your unconscious will hijack the gut, and you'll get the gut feeling that'll tell you, oh, this isn't something you want to do. Because you've never survived it. You start to worry, you start to get, different feelings. I don't know if this is good for me. That is your unconscious trying to keep you safe. And a lot of times they get in your way to really creating a life that you really love. So as we move forward to this presentation, another quote by Einstein: energy is everything, and that's all there is to it. Match the frequency of the reality you want, and you cannot help but get that reality. It can be no other way. This is not philosophy, this is physics. And I'm going to stop to share for a moment to talk a little bit about that. So everything is energy, everything. Your body is energy. The chair you're sitting in, the table that you're sitting at, all of that is energy. It's dense matter, but it's still energy. And everything is vibrating at a certain rate. Your body is vibrating. The chair is vibrating. Outside is vibrating. It's all energy, every single bit of it. So I want you to really understand that if everything is energy, there has to be a way to measure it. And that's really the $1,000,000 question too, is that how do you know when you are able to match the frequency? How are you able to match any kind of frequencies that are out there? And one way to tell is with your mood. If you're in a bad mood, it goes to say that usually you're going to have a bad day. Why? Because you're matching the frequencies that match having a bad day. And if you're in a better mood, you have a better day. You start to match those frequencies of having a better day. There's all a reason for all of these things, and energy is so important for you to understand. But back to the question. What can we choose to do to allow for more constructive decision? What can we do to allow for more certainty that we're really going for what we want, and we're not focused on lack and trying to fix it, or focused on a problem and trying to solve it? How do we know when we can make a true constructive decision like that? This is on my highest and best good. Yes, this relationship, I'm going to go for it. It doesn't necessarily mean that the outcome is going to be what you think it's going to be, but it's a lot less pain. And you don't have the power of choice. Because when you decide to do something, you have a frame of mind at one point when you decide to do something. And sometimes the output is not exactly what you thought it was. And it doesn't mean that you made a bad decision. It just means now you're going to change your trajectory a little bit. You change your choices. Oh, I decided I don't really like this too much. Okay, let me change it. Instead of maybe something happening and it's not exactly what you thought it was and it creates pain. Maybe you were really hoping that it was going to turn out good and then it ended up turning out bad. For those kinds of moments where it's totally not good for you, there is a way for you to make more constructive decisions. And how do we do that? We can calibrate it. We calibrate it using kinesiology. And it's also called applied kinesiology or muscle testing, as some of you guys might know it as. It's a method of diagnosis and treatment. And it's based on the belief that various muscles are linked to the particular organs and glands. And it's really tied into medicine, but it can also be used to calibrate the degree of truth in people, places, philosophy, spiritual practices, etc. And what this means is if it's good for you or not. It can calibrate and discern and say, yes, this is good for you. This is an experience that's good for you. It might bring you learning. It might bring you pleasure, but it's good for you. It's life-giving instead of life-taking. And why? Why does this work that way? Well, I can tell you with science. This isn't some woo-woo stuff that I'm teaching you guys out here. This is genuine, real science. And the beginning of it, this guy right here started it in the 1960s, Dr. John Goodhart. He's the one that developed applied kinesiology as we know it for chiropractors, acupuncturists, even sports medicine. Then we go into Dr. David Hawkins, who took it a step further and said, we can actually tie it into the emotional scale. And he developed a map of consciousness and gave it a point system from 0 to 1,000 and put shame at the bottom and gradually went up the emotional scale to enlightenment. So from shame, maybe guilt, to anger, frustration, then courage, pride, then courage, then so on up to bliss, love, joy, enlightenment. So you put all the range of emotions on a scale, and what's really brilliant about this is that every single part of that scale is a frequency. And where you fall on that scale is exactly what frequency you are attracting. Now, wouldn't it be nice to know where you are in any given moment, to know what you're attracting in your life? Wouldn't you like to know if your body is resonating, let's say, with guilt or with grief? And you might say, but I feel happy. But if your unconscious is running the show of grief, and the 5% of you is running the show of happiness, are you really attracting happiness? No, you're attracting grief. And your decision that you make are going to be the decisions that attract grief. And it's going to be in different ways. And it doesn't necessarily mean, someone, a death or anything like that. Grief can come in a number of ways. Another example is anger or pride or frustration. And so how many times have we found ourselves frustrated? We go and do projects, or we go to a job that we don't like, or we go into experiences and we just get frustrated, and we go home and we're just drained. And the reason why is because our body is attracting those things, because that is what we are vibrating with. That is where the predominant of our unconscious thought. Now, the unconscious thoughts are invisible. They are invisible. You do not hear them. You do not see them. Maybe you feel them if you are aware. So again, wouldn't it be nice to know where you are on that scale? Because then if you know where you are, you have the awareness, you can change it. But if you're unaware, the only thing you can do is keep doing life the way you're doing it. So back to Dr. David Hawkins. It's very interesting on the scale that you can see Mahatma Gandhi calibrated at 700 and Attila the Hun is at 90. And in between there, you can see the range of emotions in between. We have evolved into so many different beings with all of the experiences that we've had. And if you would like to learn a little bit more in-depth information on this topic, I highly invite you to read Power versus Force. It is a highly consciousness book. It is very enlightening, to say the least. And it's a wonderful book. It's challenging to read, but it is very, very, very informational. So if you're interested in learning more about Dr. Hawkins and his work, and you want to get more deeper into the topic, go ahead and buy the book and give it a go. This is Dr. Hawkins' hypothesis when it comes to kinesiology and muscle testing to decide what's good for you or not. So we had 1,000 people, 500 on one side and 500 on the other side, each holding envelopes. And the 500 that stay on the left had NutraSweet and the envelope, and the 500 on the right had vitamin C. And none of the subjects knew what was inside the envelope. Each person was tested using muscle testing, and there's a method, and each person was tested. And what they found is all 500 people on the left with NutraSweet went weak, and all 500 on the right with vitamin C went strong. Now, this may seem like common sense because vitamin C is something that's good for you, and NutraSweet obviously is not good for you. But if nobody knew what was inside the envelope, the body knew. Because the body vibrates at a certain rate. So the body already knew that NutraSweet is a very low vibration, and vitamin C is a very high vibration, because if it's a low vibration, it is life-taking, and if it's a high vibration, it is life-giving, and the body definitely wants more of what is life-giving. Dr. Hawkins had uncovered physiologic testing usefulness as the ultimate truth detector. The guy, kinesiology is a lie detector, and it's a truth detector at the same time. Because if you're seeking for truth, that's why they call it a truth detector. But you can also discern what is really good for you. And as a matter of fact, I can actually tell if someone is lying to me or not just by testing, by using the kinesiology method. And I can tell you that I am right almost 100% of the time. And I say almost because, the ego does sometimes get into the way, and you have to have a lot of practice to get used to your body's way of telling you. But it is way more accurate than going through the gut. And as a matter of fact, there was some scientific studies that were done And I believe that the gut instinct is only right about 60% of the time. That's 40% of experiences that you possibly could be losing that's really good for you. And kinesiology has a 90% effective rate, if not more. And it depends on the subject's ability to practice and mastering the art of listening to your body. It does take practice. So this is how to use kinesiology. Now, these are 3 different ways that I'm putting on my presentation, but there are other methods that you can use. I invite you to do your own research, and you can go to google.com and type in muscle testing or kinesiology, and you'll be able to see this particular method and some other methods that are available to you, and you can kind of play around with it and see which one you like the best. For me, I believe the sway test is the easiest way to get started, because the sway test does not require the finger, doesn't require anything other than just your body and staying relaxed. And to do the sway test is very simple. So you're going to grab anything that let's say anything that's around you. You're going to stand up, and you will I'm going to use lip gloss for this example. Let's say you pick up something, you hold it to your chest, you close your eyes, and in your mind or out loud, you're going to say, this is good for my body. And if you lean forward, it means it's good for your body. And if you lean backwards, it means it's not. Now, in order to make sure that you're getting accurate information, it is highly recommended that you do this process right here. You begin with totally clear yeses and nos. So one of the first things you can do is your name. If your name hasn't changed and you know your name at birth, you say, my name is Nicole, and the body will lean forward. You can say, I am a dog, and the body will lean backward. And it's very important to do that first, even though you already know the answers, because you'll be able to feel your body, and it's important to let it go. It's important for you to stay relaxed and to let your body fall forward or fall backward. And you're not intending to go either way. You're intending to stay in the middle and just stay relaxed. And it does take some practice, but it's a lot of fun. Once you get the hang of it, then you can start graduating into more challenging questions. Then you start asking things that you don't know, and you start using faith, and you give it a shot. And I'm telling you, you'll be pleasantly surprised. At least I was. I use this on a daily basis. I have taught my mom how to use it. I have taught my husband, my family, and my children use it. It is a highly effective method to use as discernment to tell truth from falsehood. It is absolutely wonderful. And I can tell you how I use it for my own personal life. This is something that's absolutely wonderful. Whenever I own a company, and one of the most challenging things that I have in my company is being able to hire the right people. And in the past, I would go off of my gut instinct, and I would say, yeah, this person's going to be great. And they've let me down. Maybe maybe they steal time, or they do other things out of integrity, but they weren't exactly a great fit. I started to use kinesiology to test, and I used a statement, hiring this person is good for my company. Hiring this individual is good for me. And I say those statements, and if my body says yes, that means that they are vibrating at a level that is good for me. Now, it could be a learning, it could be a blessing, could be any one of those things, but it's a much higher place. It's at a much higher place than if I would use my gut instinct, because I was inviting things that were totally not of my highest and best good. You definitely don't want someone stealing from you, and you definitely don't want to bring toxic people into your life. And it's also happened where kinesiology can change, meaning your vibration can change on any given day. You make choices and you live. And sometimes as time goes on, things can change. And a person that was of your highest and best good might not be anymore based on the decisions that they were making. You have no idea what goes on in people's minds, and you have no idea what decisions they're making in life. And it just so happened that one day in my company, I had a little bit of a red flag, let's just say. But instead of making judgments or assumptions about what was going on, I just calibrated. This person is doing X, Y, Z, yes or no? It's of my highest and best good to keep this person on my staff, yes or no? And I can tell you the time that I did not listen, the time that I decided to keep someone on my staff because, let's say, I felt bad, I didn't have a reason to fire them other than the kinesiology aspect, it showed up later. The reason why I should have fired them showed up later. And it was a lot of pain. So then I decided, you know what, I'm going to start listening. So since I started listening, my life started getting in flow. Now I've had, for the past 2 years, let's just say, I've had 100%, well, my staff is actually great. No, zero turnover. The only time that anything has happened is a decision that I made, where let's say that I fired a client or I had to fire an employee, let's just say, unfortunately. Another way to use it is with food. Food is something that is super, super important. And it's very interesting because a tomato from one supermarket might not be the same as a tomato from another supermarket. It depends on where they buy it from, where it was grown, whether or not it was organic. You don't know what kind of pesticides are being used. And especially in the United States, even the organic stuff that we buy, sometimes it's 30 days old before it gets to the supermarket because it's not necessarily from a farmer's market or sourced locally. It might be from somewhere else, a warehouse from somewhere. And so what I do is I actually calibrate whether or not this particular food is good for my body. And I have discovered so many things that I thought was good for me. I mean, we're talking about vegetables that are supposed to be good. And it turns out that it's not good for me. And other things that I thought were bad for me were good for me. But either way, it's a very delightful, delightful way to do life. And I highly recommend it, you guys. Just give it a shot. What do you have to lose? You have nothing to lose. And remember, insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting a different result. So if your life right now is not exactly the way you want it to be, this would be the way for you to do something different. And these are some topics that you can use for testing. It's universal. You can use it on absolutely anything that you want to test it on. All of the information that has been already happened, let's say, it's the past information, it's already happened. You're able to access it through kinesiology because it's vibrating. Everything is a frequency, even if it happened in the past. Because anything that's in your mind, let's say, can also be calibratable. You can calibrate whether a thought is of your highest and best good to take action on. It's fascinating. So these are some of the things that you can use: books and magazines, clutter, even drugs and alcohol, pharmaceuticals. And I don't mean recreational drugs. I'm talking about like medicine. You can test whether or not taking a prescription that the doctor prescribed for you is of your highest and best good. And if it says no, don't take it. Those are the moments where you take the medicine and then you get all these side effects and you wish you hadn't even started it. And you're thinking that that's the only way you can do it because the doctor said I have to do it. No, there's a lot of other ways. The doctor doesn't know. The doctor's only prescribing what's on paper. He doesn't know you personally. And there's so many different scenarios where people have said, I decided not to take the medicine, and they go back to the doctor and they say, this is not good for me. Is there anything else that you can prescribe for me? And the doctor said, yes, there are plenty of other avenues we can try. And if you calibrate them, you're almost guaranteed to find something that really works for you with very minimal side effects. Something that's actually good for your body, something that can actually help you move forward instead of giving you all of these extra side effects and leaving you worse off than when you started. One thing that kinesiology cannot do, and this is very important, kinesiology cannot tell the future. Some people want to, get the lottery numbered, or to, say, should I go on this vacation 7 months down the road? And you cannot calibrate those things because it's in the future. Why? Because anything can happen from now until then. The future had infinite number of possibilities, infinite number of choices, infinite number of ways. It hasn't been created yet. Kinesiology works for things that have already been created. Now, decision can be calibrated. Making the decision to go on this cruise 7 months from now is in my highest and best good. That you can do. But you're not able to calibrate going on a cruise is good for me in 7 months because it's in the future. So if this stuff is really interesting for you and you really enjoy the topic and you would love to learn more, we offer a seminar. It's about 6 hours long, where we really do a deep dive on kinesiology and teach you on different things that you can ask, different statements that you can ask. And it also goes through Dr. Hawkins' map of the level of consciousness, where we talk about the emotion, where you're able to actually discover where you're vibrating at this moment. And one thing that's interesting with kinesiology, when you have a master, such as myself or my coach, or anyone else that has been doing this for a very long time, the answers are pretty much the same because it's coming from the same field. It's coming from the same piece of information. We are all one. So I'm able to see how you're vibrating. I'm able to see how anything else is vibrating because I have been practicing it. And I will get the same answer as someone else that's been practicing it for a while. So the key to really getting good at using kinesiology is through practice and to have a buddy that has been doing it for a while, whether it's a coach or perhaps it's a friend that you discover, oh my God, kinesiology. A lot of people don't really talk about it, but you'd be surprised at how many people actually use it once you decide that you're going to use it as well. The universe is bringing all kinds of gifts. So if you would love to be a part of the seminar, just contact me at nicole@attractinggrace.com to be added to the waiting list. And when we compile enough interest, we will gather up the seminar and we will be delivering it hopefully in the next couple of months. So if you are interested, just go ahead and shoot me over an email. And before we end this presentation tonight, I have a note to self that I want to give to you. Before you can begin to calibrate or create a life you love, or create better health and vitality, or any other lasting change, you must first choose to be the predominant creator of your life as your highest self, instead of a predominant disintegrator with your ego. The majority of us are still in ego because we are unaware. It's what we have been conditioned to do because we have been trained to live in fear. So you must choose to go for it. You must choose to be the predominant creator and say, unconscious, this is what I want to do. I understand you don't feel safe, but we're going to give it a try. You have absolutely nothing to lose. If you want, you can go off, you can borrow my trust, and you can borrow my experience to give it a try. I absolutely love this stuff. And again, it has impacted my life in a huge way. So if there's some more information, you can contact me. There's a website if you want to learn some more information about the courses that Magical Mind offers. You can go to attractinggrace.com. You can also email me if you have some private questions that you want to ask me or some thought that you'd like to share. I would love to get your email. I absolutely love communicating with my fans. You can also go into my Instagram. I am Nicole Vayner, or my YouTube, where you found this presentation already. And then the most exciting one is you can see me live on Wednesdays at 7 p.m. on Meetup, and it's located in Charlotte. The name of the meetup is called The Law of Attraction. It's an idea that is incomplete. So if you go into Meetup, just put the location as Charlotte, look for The Law of Attraction and the idea that it's incomplete, and then you can see me in action, and it will be live, and you'll be able to communicate with me and ask all kinds of questions and whatever else that you'd like. Thank you so much for listening to this presentation, everyone. I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and thank you so much. Good night.